We have completed till now 4 classes on the covered basic electronics as well as complete analog section. The last time somebody was telling they missed the class. I will upload in the YouTube maybe by Monday, Tuesday. But that's regarding again, last week was mainly on operational amplifier as well as we discussed power supply. So that was last week. That is mainly on analog. And today we plan to get into digital electronics. Last week we talked very little about digital electronics. And let us see today emphasize on digital and what are the important things to learn in digital electronics. Because it's very important when you want to work on electron with any of the communication devices, sensor interfacing, you need to know the basics. You cannot connect something with a digital without understanding how the opponent talks with you, because it's like a different language altogether. So before going to that, let me try to say why digital, why it started all digital. So I think this understanding is important. So let me go to first tell you what is analog. Analog, an example we see. For example, I'll put a small resistor. Let us say something like 10K. And let us see, this is 5 volts. And this I put another something like a resistor or what you call thermistor. Thermistor is a temperature sensor. It is one of the many types of temperature sensors we will see later on in the sensor section when we go in detail. Right now, thermistor, assume it's just like look like 2 pins, like a resistor. This is actually a resistor, but the resistance varies. The resistance varies with temperature. For example, I buy 10K. This also they say 10K at 25 degrees Celsius. So when you buy a thermistor, it gives 25 degrees Celsius, it gives you 10K. The same will vary based on the temperature with increases. Normally, depending on what you buy, NTC or PTC type, this negative temperature coefficient, positive temperature coefficient. Don't get confused right now with that. The examples are enough for you right now. So, for example, instead of 25, let us say 90 degrees Celsius, if it reaches, this will be somewhere about 7K. So now you see 100 at 25 degrees 10K is the resistance of this, whereas 90 degrees is 7K. Just an example I'm telling you. So there is a difference of 3K variation. So what happens at 25 degrees, exactly when I measure the temperature here, I'll get a voltage of, at 25 degrees, I get a voltage of exactly 2.5 volts because this is 10K and this is 10K. But when I go to 90 degrees, I will get actually the difference. That means I'll have 7K divided by, I think all of you know, 7 plus 10K multiplied by 5 volts. So this won't be 2.5. It is less than 2.5 because this is going to be less. Now, this is the analog. Now, everything in real life looks to you like analog. Everything looks to you analog because the temperature, the heat, when you go near the stove and put your hand, it doesn't get immediately warm. It takes time. Slowly, it gradually goes. So that is, we all have experience. That is analog real life looks like. Air conditioner, when you turn on, you won't get immediate the heat reduced automatically in your body. Slowly, you will feel the heat is getting reduce. This is analog. Now, analog sensors, digital came actually into limelight probably from after 70s only, became more popular. Before also, electronics were used. And how, example, I tell you another example of how they used to communicate this. This temperature, I have a temperature. Let's assume it's an oil refinery plant, some big plant, and I measure it somewhere at temperature, somewhere about 2 kilometers away. I have to measure in the control room here, but I have to measure the temperature at 2 kilometers away. Then I have to turn on some valve or something like that. This scenario existed before also. So they also used a protocol for this analog that is something what we call as 4 to 20 milliamperes. So what happens is they put the sensor down here, whatever may be. There's a sensor and some power source. I told 5 volts, for example, there's a power source. You can have any power source. Then this will come long wire up to several kilometers. This is actually several kilometers wire we use. And then here is grounded, for example. So I measure, here I put something else and measure whatever may be. What it guarantees here, this is the current what is flowing, that will vary between 4 to 20 milliamperes. You cannot transmit voltages for a long, with the wires long distance, because we know already the wire gives resistance, which means it will reduce the voltage. The pressure will reduce. When you use a pipe, whatever long may be, initial at the end of the pipe, there will be a pressure will be different. But we don't want pressure different means in the previous example I showed you, the temperature thermistor voltage, it should not vary for me. So I use the current. So this is the way the analog it was used before. Even today it is used, very popular, 4 to 20 milliamperes. Why? That means you have to understand this because tomorrow you'll be using a lot of sensors with 4 to 20 milliamperes, which is analog with respect to digital systems. So you must, if you must understand the principle why it is done. 4 to 20 milliampere, why? Assume it is actually 0 to 20 milliampere. Assume, which means this particular measurement of device that gives from 0 to 100 degrees Celsius, the temperature can measure. That means it will give me current somewhere about, let's assume somewhere about it will give from 10 to 20 milliampere. That means 10 milliampere current will be the 100 degrees. So I pass the current, how much current is going through, depending on how much is the temperature. Now, why this minimum 4 is given? Suppose this wire is broken, there will be 0 current going. I will not understand whether sensor is connected or not if I use 0. In order to avoid that, minimum I send at 4 milliampere at 0 degrees, whatever may be, or minus, in this case, in our case, what we call minus 100 degrees Celsius. And I put here 10 milliampere. At, let us say, here 10, that means 14 milliampere is about 0 degrees Celsius. Then again, I go to 20 milliampere, only 6 milliampere. Then I give 60 degrees Celsius. So my measurement, let me rework again, 0 to 60 degrees. I give like this. The point you have to understand simple is, there's a minimum current given to find the cable breaking. This also works with most of the analog systems we have. Still, analog systems are used heavily. Now, why digital comes into picture? Digital is communication. Now, for example, we communicate with people. Okay, everything like temperature. I told you wires communicate. I talk, you listen. So now when I talk, it comes as analog actually, because you are actually vibrating a particular drum. Your eardrums are vibrated by my voice. So that is not on off. That is slowly moving up and come. So it is analog. When you see all the music is going as analog only. Now, if you know the old modems, when they start digital communication, very old, they also use a frequency. They used to call as FSK. That is called frequency shift keying. Frequency shift keying. So what they did was, they will pass a signal of 2400 hertz if it is going to be 1, and 4800 hertz if it is going to be 0. So they will give 4800 seconds, for example, 1 second. Another second they give 2400. So which means 1 second it will be 0. Another second will be 1. Then again they give, assume 2400 hertz, 1 again, and again 0. This is how data was transmitting. So what is this 1 and 0? Suddenly I came into picture now. You know, the olden time, the digital really started, it's very interesting. It started, I think if you know only the Tarzan movies, where there's a white man in an African jungle, which is full of black people. He will start shouting, but you will know the small people, black people, will make a fire on the hilltop, and they will cover the fire and release the fire. It's called smoke signal. This is called smoke signal. Red Indians used to use it. This is one of the oldest way of the digital evolution of digital. So now assume I have fire and I cover with a pot the smoke coming out. There's a fire with a pot. I put a fire here, and then I cover with the pot completely. There will be no smoke. When the smoke gets accumulated, suddenly I lift it outside. Then the smoke will go out. One burst of smoke. Again I close it. After some time, again open it. So another cloud burst will go. So the smoke burst can be seen from the hilltop, one hilltop to another hilltop. They come in one, either smoke is coming out or smoke is not coming out. So that becomes digital. The digital, one of the advantage we know today also, is very long distance it can go. Whereas another example of, if you want to see the digital invention of digital, is what you call olden time. I think if you know about, you have heard about it, it's a Morse code. Morse code is the one which your telegrams, old telegrams, I think who are above 50, you might have seen a telegram. You go for, normally give telegram to people when during death you give, or some other important job, you got selection, you send a telegram. They are using this. What they are using, they call dot and dash. Dot and dash. So a dot means a dot and dash. This is how the telegraphic symbol is written there. So this again comes, a dot means 1, dash also 1. The question is, it's 1 second, this is 3 seconds, up to 3 seconds. So you have, it can be, for example, smoke. Smoke comes out for 1 second, doesn't come out for 1 second. Next, smoke comes out for 3 seconds. Smoke doesn't come out for 1 second. Next, smoke comes for 1 second. Smoke doesn't come out for 3 seconds. So smoke on and off, you can make it with only simple 1 second and 3 seconds. That's a what you call dot and dash. With that, you can communicate to people. Now we laugh at this age when we go for gigahertz speed. This is how the whole shipping industry works. Even today it works. They use light. So when you see any movie with the ships, everything, every communication fails, they will use only light. They will turn off the light, turn on the light. And that is where the digital comes into picture. So now let us see how I will go this temperature. I will send as a digital. The example what we draw in the first one only. I have this is a thermistor. I just say instead of round I make it. That's how they put sometimes. The thermistor I have. So here I have a voltage, which is coming 2 volts, and it comes 2.5 volts. It goes to 3 volts, whatever voltage. This voltage will give me what is the temperature. Instead of that, I can even communicate to you by telling in numbers. Suppose I shout at you, it is 30, it is 20, 25, you will hear. That's a language we are using. We are using a language to shout. Instead of shouting, I can also send as a music with a particular frequency on and off. There's a music what we are talking, the audible frequency. It's a similar one used in a fiber optics now. Fiber optics goes on a higher speed, much higher speed than what you think your sound carries. That's the only difference. Otherwise, principle remains the same in both the cases. Now let us see how we communicate. So people thought, I want to send like dish and dash. So how will I send a message? Now, this is very important for you. You must understand, because this is how the numbering system, everything started. And you will be using, most of the people don't understand what is hexadecimal, binary, octal numbers when you go. And you must know it. Otherwise, you can't write a program later on. Then you'll be verifying, ask somebody what is the hex, what is. It's very easy to understand. So I'll try to explain how the numbering system come into picture in digital first. So for example, I want to, idea I told you, I make like this. For example, I make like this. This is a coding. So when I see here, I have 1 here. Let me put, the problem is 1, value of 1. These are high values. These are low values. So you want to write as a string 1 high and low, then I will write, see, depending on where I put 1 there. Let me go for simple here. Here is 1, here is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Now, see here is very interesting now. I have to give a time period, because like I told you, smoke also gives a time period. If I divide the time period this I can divide to 2 time periods. There are 2 time periods, it is 0. So I can put here 0, 0. Then here is 2 times 1 actually. So I can put 1 time period 1. And this also 2 times, so time period 1. So now we are getting closer to what we use today. So this number is written, for example, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. If you talk like this, nobody will understand. It's very difficult. So let's go back to understand something. How human beings started using counting methods. Then it becomes very easy for you. So we have actually I think it's very easy to see. I have 5 fingers, 10 fingers now. So 10 fingers, assuming the number actually starts with 0. So if you start with 0, one of the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. After 9, I don't have any more fingers. So the old, how we learned in school, we borrow finger. So that's how it becomes 0, 1, 2. And it comes up to, I will just turn on this. Up to 9. Afterwards, it becomes again 0. And then becomes 1 here. And then 1, 2, 3. It goes on like this. When it becomes again 0, 9, and 0, it becomes 2 here. So you continue this and go here. Let us say 1, 2, and then like this. Finally, it will become 9, 9 here. Then this will become 0, 0 here. This is how we call 100. So this we call a decimal system. Now, same thing, assume a person has only 8 fingers. 8 fingers. That's called octal system. Very simple it is. So up to 7 only he can count. After counting to 0, 1, 2, up to 7, then he would have finished all his 8 fingers. Then he'll make it a 0 and 1. So this is called octal system. This is called decimal system. We will see afterwards why decimal is what we are having 10 fingers. That's why we are using decimal system. But why computer systems, different systems are used, we'll come to know now soon. The third one comes assuming you have 16 fingers. If 16 fingers you have, you will count 0, 1 to 9. After 9, you don't have any so-called our Arabic numerals or neither Devanagari script numerals. Numerals are not there because human beings are used to decimal system. So we try to use now, let's say, English alphabet. So we try to use A. This becomes actually 10, 11. This is 0, 1 to 9. A, B, C, D, E, F. You will have now 15 actually when you count. So after 16 fingers, it becomes again 0, 1. So now what happens? This is the base 16. So this is 16 to the power 0. And this one is 16 to the power 1. Here you see, in the old case, this is 10 to the, again here, 10 to the power 0 and 10 to the power 1 and 10 to the power 2. So whatever the second number, will multiply by 10 and this one by another 10, that means 100. So here the same way, the first, whatever the number here, will multiply by 16 and the next one by, multiply by 60, that is 256. So why it is done? So most of this, you will be using this symbol, 16, in the computers. Whenever you write any programs, anything, it's easier because we have to use it. I will tell you why. If you think no, I can use in decimal, convert it, don't do that. It's very easy to understand why. So now with this, now you see here the reason for why. Let's have one light. I will have one light, one LED or one light. How many messages I can send with one light? Either light can be off or light can be on. It gives two messages possibility. So I have two LED, two lights. How many messages can give? This one off, this one off, this one on, this one off, then this one on, this one off, then both are on. So you will have here 2 to the power 0 possibility. Here you will have 2 to the power 1 possibility. That means totally you will have 2. This is 2 plus 3, both are 0, 1. So 4 possibilities. Now when you go to 3, how many possibilities? So possibilities are right here, 2, and this is 4, and this is 8. So 8 possibilities, 3 lights, you can send 8 messages. One message, all light off, I am at home. One light on, outside you put, my father is there, don't come. So second light on, some other message, come here, I'm free. Third one, some other message. So you put a light, try to see 3 lights on your door outside and try to communicate how many messages will go. So this is how you will get 8. If I put one more, how much it will come? It will come 16 total. 16 possibilities, including 0. Okay, including 0, there is 16 possibilities will come. You can send 16 possibilities message. Now, people thought about how do I communicate with somebody? Now, if you look at languages, for example, and we try to speak to somebody, like I speak means S-P-E-A-K. So when I type also, I must send S-P-E-A-K. I must send this letter, this letter, this letter, this letter, this letter. So how many maximum possibilities of letter? The number of alphabets we have. So I have to transmit from A to Z. Somebody will come and tell me I want from small a to small z. Then somebody will from 0 to 9. Somebody will semicolon, hash, comma, whatever it is, all I require. Count all of them, how much it comes. How much maximum will come. Somebody did it long back, about 60 years back, 70 years back, when the digital started. So they came to find out 127 is enough, or 128 is enough from 0. Total 128 is enough. They decided first. So they made a system. I require 128 possibilities. 128 possibilities of light to represent all the what I use in English language. Unfortunately, they didn't try to use Tamil language. Would have been very difficult because we have so many um, actual the syllables what we use. Uh, then only like A to Z we don't have. We have so many. But this English, it started with English. So somebody came. Okay, seven is seven. 128 चाहिए. 128. How many lights are required? If you see 128 lights are required, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The seven LEDs I must have, or 7 lights I must have to express these possibilities in English language and a small numbers, numerics, and everything, so I can communicate. So somebody, but when I make always anything with digital, uh, 7 is an odd number, difficult, not is possible, but it's difficult. You always go in like again multiplication of 2. So instead of 7, you can have 8. 1 added. So 1 added means an 8, and this 8 means another 128. This is a normal characters you will use. Then another 128, people started using later on for graphics. Mainly Japanese started using first for graphics. This next 128. Original still remains with 128 only first. The standard communication channel is only 128 standard, but people start using not for graphics. For some other purpose, they started using the another 128. But whether they use the rest 128 or not, they use always 8 bulbs or 8 lights to denote. So this 8 are required. Now, how to remember this 8? I will tell you example for this. Letters, how it is made. Okay. Now, let me say I want to write 0. So 0, somebody like you and me only. So 0, I want to write. They started writing. Okay, this is 0. Now 1, I want to write. So 1, they start putting like this. And I want to write 2. And I want to put 3. This is important, very easy. Only once you have to understand this. I don't think it's much. I want to write 8. I skip here. And I want to write A. I want to write B. Okay, now if you see this is how somebody gave. I will turn on the light like this for 0. 0, I put a cross normally. 0, 1, 2, 3, like this 8. Why not? Somebody adopted. And this is called ASCII. And this is actually ASCII what I wrote to you. Okay. Now, how will I remember this? Too difficult. Too difficult. I cannot remember this. I cannot tell you 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. Very difficult. So they want to find out easier way people can remember. So they divide into 2 parts. And they call them each as a nibble. High nibble, low nibble, they made. Now you see, there are 4 lights and they got 16 possibilities. 16 possibilities means I can represent it from 0 to F. We already saw before this 0, 1, 2, 3, 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, F. With that, F is equal to 15. From 0 to 15, F is actually 15 in decimal, what we think used normally. Afterwards, again 0 will come. So this is 1, 0 to F this year. So I can represent, instead of so many zeros and ones, I can represent from 0, 0, I will call hexadecimal. Or I can, for example, this one I will write as, you see, this is 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 8. This is 1, 2, 4, 8. Easy to remember. So now this is 2 and 1, 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So 3, 0. So 3, 0, I can say easily number. So 3, 0 hexadecimal, that is letter 0 I want to represent. I come back to here, this comes to 3, 8. Why 8? Because 1, 2, 4, 8. A, when I come, it becomes 41. So like that, I think you can, now you can see the table and understand. So you represent 2 by 2 of the letters you give, 2 of this to represent one of the message, one of the word what you want to transmit, or one of the numbers you want to transmit. This is how the digital transmission came into picture. Even though finally it will be transmitted like this 1010, but when you write program or coding, easier for to write this hexadecimal format. So this is called hexadecimal format. Now you want to convert hexadecimal, very easy for you. You understood the principle how it works. Only 8. And this all this one letter, what you call as 1 byte required. They call as byte. So 1 byte is required for each of this letter, word, symbol, whatever may be. In normally what is used in ASCII. 1 byte required. And 1 byte contains 8 bits. This is what we learn. So those who are only doesn't learn in school, you must have learned in school, but I think you have to understand. Very easy for you to now convert to octal. Octal means you will find only up to here. Only 3 bulbs will be there. Now you can work very well with the 3 bulbs you put there. You know octal. You can convert how 3 bulbs. What happens after that number 7? It becomes again 10, 1112. Then becomes 20. Becomes 277. Then becomes 001. So this is how the digital numbering system works. And this is important. Now what we learn is the ASCII, the way it's written there. So you will find for each of the letters or each of the numbers you're using, each of the characters you are communicating, you will find a particular sequence or a particular number starting with, for example, in our case, 00, it will start. And we already know 30 starts from numbers. And for example, 20 is space. I mean, you press a space bar or whatever it is, 20. 20 is space, for example. Then you have 30 starts with 0. 41 starts with A. So you will find a lot of them like carriage return. Carriage return is 0D. 0E is, 0A is line feed. Line feed, one line to come additional. This is carriage return. This is called LF. We will see some of them required because this all you will use them quite often. Whenever you print or send some message, something, you require line feed, carriage return character. You require directly to put the numbers characters. So this is the important basic you must know before you go for learning any computer languages, how to write, to interface, especially with the sensor world outside, because they communicate like this. So I will show how this communicates before we have to learn a little bit of basics of digital also, components. Last time I told somebody wanted shift registers and stuff like that. But I think I'll explain you some of the basic, easy to understand. When you look for interfacing, some of the sensors or devices digitally, you must learn them too. But let us continue with this. So we learn now what is hexadecimal. Binary first we learn. Binary is 1 and 0. That's what we put. And hexadecimal is actually interpretation of the binary. Instead of putting 8 of total 1 and 0s, I want to put within me 2 of the numbers I can remember, which is 0 to F. So, for example, so binary when I want to, like I told you, if I want to write here F, let us say 5C, I want to write like this 5C. So here I have to write actually 5. So 0, 1, 0, 1. This is 4 plus 1, 5. You see how I'm talking like when writing, so easy for you to understand, very easy. 5. C is actually, what is C? Okay. A is 10, B is 11, C is 12. Okay? Because 0 to 9 we have. So A must be equivalent to 10. So B is 11, C is 12, D is 13, E is 14, F is 15. That's all you have to remember in your life. Then you know this clearly. So now we have C. C is 12. 12 is what? 8 plus 4. That is 12. So instead of writing all these things, you can write only this. And another notation in computers, when you write, you will write them like this: 0x5c. X to show hexadecimal. They don't put a H there, they put a 0x5c. If you don't put anything, it will take as a decimal actually. See, decimal, decimal if you write this 5 into 16, okay? 5 into 16 is 80. 80 plus 12 equal to 92. That's all. So instead of writing 92, you're writing 5c, because each one of this bit, you will relate to some output or input later on from your devices. Relay you will control with one bit of this. You will read a switch with one bit. So you can't use these numbers. It's very difficult for you. You have to get used to hexadecimal numbers, especially when you want to use electronics interface with a computer. That's the reason it's important for us. We learn that now. Now we'll see how this is sent actually. This data is sent in real way. So I will, before going to the digital basic, I'll tell you one more small important thing required for you to understand how they are communicated. The analog, I told you, wire you pass, you measure the voltage, you will know what is the voltage. But how digitally you have to give? So digitally, we send pulse string. Like we told now, I have to send the ASCII. So suppose one line is there. This I measure, for example, this is a level. I measure a signal here. So first, I must know before I'm talking to you. So I must get your attention first. So assuming this is 5 volts, just I'll give an example to you. 5 volt assuming the signal is coming 5 volt on a wire. That means light is on for you. Only one single light I have. Okay, I don't have 8 lights here. I have to communicate 8 possibilities, only one single light. Only one light I have, serial communication. I am talking, you are listening. It's only one way. You're not talking to me. So assuming this only one light is there, I will turn on the light, turn off the light. So very first light is on here. So you will be watching me. You will be watching and you will be listening something else also. The moment I turn off the light, you will know the trigger is there for you that I'm going to tell you something. So you will watch me. You will start listening to me. He is going to tell something because he turned off the light now. What I will do. Then after some time, assuming it is 1 second, let's assume easy for understanding. 1 second light is off. After 1 second, I know he is going to send me, because 1 second I waited, he will start after 1 second, he will start telling me. Suppose he want to send the data 0, let's say, he want to say a data, let us say 24 point, sorry, 243 number. Let's put that way. 240. Dot and all will come to you. 2e, they explain the complex. So let's put the easy numbers for you. 243 number is what I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to turn off my light. After 1 second, you'll wait for what I'm going to tell. You also know how much letters I'm going to tell. For in this case, 243. So what I will send, I will send 2 here. So letter 2 equal to, actually, like I told you, it is very easy. That is 32. I have to put in hexadecimal. This you may not know, but I'm just telling you, it is like that only. 0011 0010. This is 33. 2. Now I want 4. 4 I want is actually 34. So I have to send 0011. This is 3. No? 4. This is 4. Bit 4. And again 3 I want. So 3 I want to send. So this is 33 hexadecimal. So 0011 0011. Very easy. Now if you follow this, I will transmit the data now. So how will I send? First I have to send 0. So I'll keep 1 second 0. Another 0, 1 second 0. Then I will put 1 for 1 second. Again another 1 second 1. Then this is very important what I'm saying, because we'll learn afterwards something. So carefully watch. Again 0 0. Again 1. I make 0. Then I make 1. Minimum for 1 second 1. So I am told actually to wait for the 8 bits. So now you see, this is a starting signal you are giving. I'm giving you. I'm going to start the data. I'm actually starting the data from here, this point. So you'll be seeing from this point every 1 second what is the value I have. So you will keep on writing 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 0. Afterwards, I must make this high. This is called stop. This is called start signal. This is called stop. So I give a name there. This bit is called start bit, and this bit is called stop bit. And this is a data bit. So you'll have 8 data bits right now with 1 start bit, 1 stop bit. And this is called the serial transmission, or what you call UART, Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. Why is asynchronous? We'll come back afterwards. What is synchronous? This is one single light I'm using. Just turning off the light, keeping it off for 3 seconds, turning it on for 2 seconds, off for 2 seconds, on for 1 second, off for 0 seconds. You will understand automatically I'm telling the value of only 2. Then I'll continue again. See, how will I continue? I'll just add a little bit of only. So here I will, one is high actually. Then I may leave one more free if I want. Then I make it low. So this second start. Sorry. In the second one start, I will again give 1 bit start bit. Afterwards, I'll give 0 0. Then again 1 1. Then I have to give 0 1. So 1 0, and then 1, and then 0 0. So I will give 0 0, and then 1. Stop I require. This is stop. I think if you follow this, you know what is UART. You'll be using very heavily this UART with anything, any module you want to connect everything. Then you must understand some basic small setting. It will help you to design tomorrow your own protocol, and you use many of the variations of UART in sensor interface. Many variations. I mean, so many sensors have different type of variations of UART. So universal asynchronous. It's not synchronous, asynchronous. That means anytime he can give you this signal to start. He's not going to tell you when to wait. Anytime you have to watch all the time him to see when he goes low, then you take the data and do it. I hope this is clear. This UART is what is heavily used there. In several of the forms we will be knowing. We will be knowing RS-232. We will be knowing as RS-485. The lower level protocols of serial of the UART. This is the USRT or UART they call. Your synchronous protocol is completely different. We'll come back to synchronous protocol. That is called SIO. We'll come back to that. I will explain that also. What is synchronous? They are high speed. Normally, you will use only this speed. You will also use that, but we'll see it afterwards. This is for long distance people use it. For example, communication, I told you, very first when I started the Red Indians, from the hilltop, they used to smoke signals. Similar, this RS-485 can go easy to several kilometers. You can pull the wire several kilometers. This cannot go up to kilometers. This may go to few hundred meters only. But few hundred meters, normally, typically less than, not few hundred, also less than 10 meters, 20 meters. But there are methods of using it longer. but I would prefer this not to be used, this to use. You can go up to easily 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer distance. You can drive with the RS. We'll come to see what is that. But data is sent like this. That you must remember very simple. Now we learned what is uh, digital and how the numbers are transmitted, or how you understand when I have only lights to explain to you. One line. Now imagine this one line is one wire. Only one wire connects from my room to your room. Then you can connect a bulb there and you can see what I send a signal. And this is how exactly what was before used. Instead of so much of fixed time intervals, only two time intervals, 1 second and 3 seconds they use. Morse code was used. But Morse code also very complex to write all the characters. Morse code. You'll have dish dash, dish dash. I think if you have time, you have to go through, because still many communications still using Morse code because old style compatibility. Plus, it works anywhere. Morse code can be used with the light, can be used with the drum, can be used with anything noise to give, and people can understand short messages very fast. Now let us see something like why we converted from why we went from advantage of um, analog and digital. Uh, when we try to go in digital form, analog, there are possibilities for saving. You can save also in analog. For example, I take a voltage of a sensor, or whatever voltage of temperature sensor. I want to save it. I can save it, but I have to save the analog voltage exactly. If it is giving 0.5 volts, I must store as 0.5 volts. There are circuits available like sample and hold. You can take a sample at that time and then hold it for long. But holding forever is very difficult in analog, because you have to hold the charge exactly. But easier is to have a switch or a relay, what we studied. You can turn off and turn on. So only two states, on or off. So it's easier to store it for a longer time. That's how the digital started, very first. So advantage of storing it to do. So once you come to storing or the communication, what I told, there are many functionalities required by digital signals. Let us see one by one, simple, which are all the functionalities used. Before we jump into that, I will give a few minutes break for you so you can ask some questions. Till now, what I covered, any doubt is there? You can all open your mic and ask me the questions also. Because the ones till now I told is very, very important. At least if you don't understand anything on numbering system, you get clarified now. Otherwise, it's easy. What I till now I taught also. Any questions you have?
Jonas, please unmute your mic and ask questions if you are having any doubt.
Chat will be difficult for me to see it because I'm alone. Somebody can see the chat and tell me, then I can answer also. That's not a problem. Because I know many people will not like to uh, uh, see it on the, because you may be at home, you don't want to open your mic. But I understand. Okay, somebody 7-9 he told voice breaking. Now my voice is okay. 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 I think I will continue. If you keep on, you can interrupt me and ask also a question. I think we'll continue. Okay, now the first thing I want, imagine in your house you have a light. Uh, you have certain light. First time you want to push a button, you want the light to come on. Second time you push, you want the light to go off. So what is that? That's a storage function actually. It's a storage function. The first time when I want to push a button, then I want the light to go high, and second time when I push a button, I want the light to go low. Third time I want to push a button, I want the light to go high. This is what normally we want. That's a storing actually. It stores the events, the triggers, whatever you call. First trigger is stores, second comes toggle, third one again toggles. And these are the ones which are called flip-flop. So many a times in digital circuit, you will implement flip-flop inside your software also with the flags. So you must understand the functionality of a flip-flop. So you see there is a trigger. Now the trigger, we learn a lot in this. Trigger is a pulse, I told you. Now what is a pulse? You have to define a pulse in digital, whether rising edge, lowering edge, or the level. Level is seldom used nowadays, but still it is used. It's very useful sometimes. You want to know whether a person is pressing the key continuously or not. In that case, you will use a level, for example. So depending on, so you need a rising edge, RISING, and this is called lowering edge. This is very important because if you press a button, it can be like this, so long and go low. So you want to only understand when you press low. This must make a trigger for you to store the data. So whatever you want to store, you can either choose rising edge, lowering edge, or the level, low or high. And the flip-flop function is to store one bit of data. Now, not necessarily store, it toggles information. Now, normally flip-flops, when you use, you will need flip-flops in your interfacing sensors 100%. You will use a flip-flop anytime you go there. This flip-flop has, I'll just make it a bit addition. I press a button here, light goes off. Okay. I press a button here. That's all. But I give a reset here. Pin. When I give a reset pin, I give a pulse here. It will make it 0. Not the same guy. Not the second pulse required. This is, for example, used in a boss calling the peon or watchman to come inside the room. The boss presses the button once, the light is on for outside. And the outside fire fellow, peon, before entering, he will see the light, so he want to enter. He has got one switch, reset switch. He'll press the button. Light will go off. Otherwise, boss will not again, second time, he will not press to turn off the light. Okay. So this is very commonly used, for example. I mean, still I know a lot of companies are making a lot of money. The government institutions and all, they use calling bell, like calling switch for the peon or somebody else. Very heavy amount of money. I'm not joking. Recently, I come to know also one of the, I think MTNL or something like that. They want to use Ethernet cable, everything to identify one small switch. Okay. Online, they want to show whether, sorry, railways. I heard one story. A GM is present or not in the cabin. The others want to know. And it's spread over. So many people, managers are there. So very simple press switch and they must get to know. So it is a flip-flop is very important. We will see the next one which is used is what you call as a, so we have some signal as data and something called a clock. So what is the function of this? When I make a pulse here, then only, suppose this low going, then you see what is the level of this data point, whether it's high or low. That is stored inside. So idea is store the level of data pin when clock pulse given lowering edge. So this advantage you see, this is used very too much. We are using this in everywhere. So this data can go from this fellow to some other fellow also data. This need not be one line. It can be 8 lines. Okay, I just draw the symbol for only one line, but assuming it can be for 8 lines also. So another one here. And here we'll have another clock, some other clock. So instead of one, if I take 8 lines, this 8 lines can send data to here and here. Instead of one line, here will be 8 lines output. Here also 8 outputs. So whatever 8 lines of data, you have to imagine here 8 lines are going. 8 data. With one line, I can say, now this is for you. You take this data. And this flow, another clock, another data. So you see now, here I get 8 outputs and 8 outputs. Here I have one clock signal, and data 8. So data equal to 8 signal line I require, and clock I require 2 lines I require theoretically for this. I'm telling you, with the 10 lines, but I can produce 18 outputs. So I can have 8 for this, send first to this fellow and make this signal. Then again, the same 8 send for this fellow and make the signal. It's very, very important. You'll use heavily this in any of the microcontroller circuit, you will use it. It's idiotic to go and expand more higher capacity microcontrollers, more expensive ones to use it. People don't know the technique. Many times people I see people using like that because they don't know what it is. And these are called latch. Why?
So you are
English.
using two flip-flops then.
No, it's a latch. It's called latch. Yeah, correct. Okay.
2 flip-flops.
Yeah, agree.
But
Agreed.
8 lines. And
No, not you two in each 8 lines will come. Okay. You're right. But it confuse the youngsters. Flip-flop is you see only like what I taught. And inside here they have flip-flops. Don't worry about it. Okay. Inside here flip-flops are there. That's okay. So now this is particular latch. So this particular one data I told you, this latch also can have a reset pin. Like last example I told you, for a flip-flop also you can have a reset separately. So you can have for the latch also separately a reset pin. So when I press reset, this all becomes 0. Some default value I can give. So for that I have a preset value. Preset value 8 lines or 1 line, whatever may preset. Becomes complicated. So I will stop here. So you want to learn more about latches, you read. There are SR, RS or SR flip-flop, D-type flip-flop. There are different flip-flops are there. But remember, only one thing, what I tell now, these flip-flops are required to latch the data, whatever coming on the line, latch it for a particular location. So you can use the same data going to different locations and you can transfer data to different devices. For example, when I want to read a keyboard and I want to display, let us say, a 16:2 display LCD something, I will use this technique. This is more interesting because LCD display requires about 7 lines to be used. And I can drive also a keyboard very easily, 4:3 keyboard. So very simple it is. So I have a 12 keyboard, only 1 line additional I require, I can use it. So it's very important that you understand the latch function, how you are going to use it. This need not a chip also, but you can make yourself think about latching the data where it's required. So the latches are important part of it. Next to flip-flop, but flip-flop mostly you'll be using latch or flip-flop you'll use for overcurrent, for example. Mainly I use it also overcurrent detection. Somewhere exceptional case happens, you want to trigger it, use a flip-flop, then reset that flip-flop. So this flip-flop remembers only one incident. One event happened, it captures, then you reset. Then only it's economical to use a flip-flop that way. But when you want to use multiple lines to use it, go for a latch. So latch may reset, preset, so many are there. You can imagine, according to your imagination, everything is available. So don't worry about latch, is another part. I hope digital gets clear now. Then we have something what we call is okay. This is also very important for you. A latch numbers, for example, I tell you 373, 74373, like that. You have again in digital there are two types. This you have to know. Last time I skipped it. I will tell that first now. So in digital, whatever you see is I would say only TTL and CMOS. Okay, now it is changed. So many we have now variations. TTL and CMOS ICs. Most of them now available or compatible to both of them. Many of them, but still old type TTL are used heavily, especially when you use high current and high speed. When you use high current and high speed, they are used. CMOS is low power and it was less speed before, even now relatively, but this is quite high speed, so you don't require now TTL because current consumption is very high. They are used for driving long distance lines, LED lights. If you want to have, that is a TTL for directly used. And they were very popular before you needed TTL. For example, type I'm telling you, 74373 is a 8-bit latch. Like the last example I told, a 8-bit D latch. This available 74, now 74C373 is CMOS. Then they made 74, let us say S373, and this is a TTL type completely. Now 74HC373, and then they made 74HCT. Then they have 74AC373, 74ACT. So different types are available. A discrete digital component. You will use them. But what I say right now, you check which one you need, the speed and the current. That you have to check. It's not very difficult. If you learn to read data sheet, you will find out very easily which one you require. Now, another important what you will see is 3-state buffers. This you will use most of the time also. Interfacing multiple circuits, 3-state buffers, which means sometimes two devices are connected here, two ICs connected, whatever it is, to the same line number, for example. So now you have something like that. Multiple devices are connected to one device. Now you these have output inputs lines also. Now you see one of them actively putting output, otherwise they are not putting 3-state. 3-state means they are neither putting low nor putting high. That is the PNP. You remember the PNP transistor we told? I think you remember PNP. I think you'll remember like this. I draw one, another one you draw, and you can join them together. Sorry, PNP. So this is actually in 3-state. Unless this switches, voltage will not come. Unless this switches, voltage will not come. So you can have multiple voltages coming on the same line. Get confused? Leave that. That is how the 3-state means neither 0 nor 1. It's a high impedance. Other word they use is a high impedance input. This we use normally to drive long distance lines. They are important. For example, you have like this 245 or 244 they call. The input is coming here, output is going there. So now this input output will go, but you have a direction here. You can change a direction pin. So you can make direction here in or out, here in or out. Then you'll have a 3-state pin called output enable. So when you put this output enable, then only output will come. Otherwise, output will not become 0 or 1. You can use this output to some other output also. Here again output, here again output. So I assume I tell you an example here like this. Another 2, 4, 5 output. Here also comes to output. Here is input. I cannot join 2 outputs. If this fellow gives 1, this fellow gives 0, the current will go through it completely. So I cannot join one in and one another out. One out must go to in only. But this is a case I won't have in my application. Then I must control this OE to output enable. If I select this and disable this, then output will come here. This is used somewhere else. The diagram what I shown you here, this is used somewhere else. Either of the one of the devices will output the data. They already latched here inside, somewhere coming here, and you want output. So these are all called 3-state buffers. Remember, 3-state buffers you require when you want to select 2 outputs, you want to select one of them, you need a 3-state buffer. Now, okay, now I will go for the next important part we require. We have much more discrete components like data selector. We will use in some of the switching circuits. So like for example, SIM card also. I want to use dual SIM card. Instead of one SIM card, I want to select from one to another. Then you require a similar what I showed you, a buffer, you have to use it. So that one is connected, another one is disabled. Now, they come to the another important thing is the very important is how to handle the world is real world you see is analog. It looks to you like, okay, because the sound is coming as analog, whatever it is, the light, like I told you, heat, everything. But how it is represented in digital. A good example, you see your TV or you see a picture. You know 640 by 480 is a VGA. Then you have now whatever you call, people have 4K, they call 2K. Actually, youngsters will know when they watch movies, they are talking very high resolution. All of them, including your old photography system, they works on pixels, on and off. That's all. Actually, when you whatever you see in your eyes can only respond up to 50 frames per second, 50 hertz. That is the speed when a bicycle or a bullock cart runs, the spokes turn to reverse the direction when you see normally. That is the 50 hertz speed. So you cannot see it more than 50 hertz change with your eyes. Less than 50 hertz will be flickering for you. You can see it. So that's the reason all the TVs are used 50 hertz now. So there are 50 frames are changed in 1 second. So you see like a movie. So every second you go on changing 50 still pictures, you are seeing a movie. That we all know already from school time. So this is how you can make with an analog one as a digital. Your camera also, old camera also had a chemical, small dots only. And today you have very high resolution cameras which can replace them. That's how Kodak went bankrupt, you know, all the story. Whole thing changed after the digitization. Because in digital, in an analog signal, this is analog signal, we digitize it, but we digitize so fine. We take so many samples. See, all these lines are samples. And I store the values in volts directly. Assuming I store all the values, this is, let us say, 2 volts and this 4 volts. So I say this is, let's say, 3.9. So I store each one of them separately. They're so close that when they put them together as a dot, it becomes a line for you automatically. So that is how it is converting from digital to look like analog so accurately. Even your music, what you're listening from me actually, I got a Bluetooth headphone. Is actually my voice is converted into digital and sent to you so fast, and then reassembled at your end to listen as back again as a sound signal, back as an analog signal. So this is where we need to understand how this is done. This has to be done. So we call them as A to D or D to A. This is very important to understand the concept of this. Many people don't know the concept of, they say AD converter use karo, which type to use, when to use, how it works, what is the principle. That we will see now for the next 15-20 minutes. Well, I think this is very important. Anywhere you take, anything you take, you'll interface with the analog world. Without analog world, you cannot survive in the digital world alone. So you have to transmit data into, again, digital. Again, you have to convert back to analog, because human life believe in analog actually. There are a lot of work done even in the automobile. The needles, dashboard, what you call, analog is much easier to see. Needles are much easier. I know when I drive, I can find whether I'm overspeeding or anything happening, whether my temperature on very high or not. Analog is very easy than digital numbers. I can't. My eyes have to read it, my mind has to interrupt and then do it. So analog displays are better than most of the life saving. Also, they prefer analog display, but information all digital. So you have to understand how to convert digital to analog steps. So let us see that now. So now when you want to convert an analog to digital, first one comes to you, successive approximation. This is the first technique which is used, and we'll understand what is successive approximation. Okay, this is something like goes like bubble sort. I think in mathematics, if you remove bubble sort, it is something like that, successive approximation. So, example, I'll tell you how will I do it. I have an op amp. Op amp, all of know a little bit now. So here is my unknown voltage. That's a signal which is coming, analog signal. Assuming. So now so this is the analog signal. Now this here output, I will get the difference of both. You know already. Suppose I got 2 volt here. I don't know what is the voltage. I have to find out how much it is. So by finding here the signal, I can find out. So how will I do it? I have to give some voltage here. The bubble sort technique says you your 5 volt supply, you give 2.5 first and check whether it's less or more. Okay, 2 is less than 2.5, so you'll get the information here. Now, if less than 2.5, for example, I give 2.5, then I will give next closer to this, either 1.25, or on the top side means I will go for another 3.75. I will go. So I go by slab, sort out finally which comes closer. This is very similar to a successive approximation, and there is something like a ladder. It climbs up easily and finds out. So which means it takes time to find out. It changes every time. What is how the voltage is given? Successive approximation by resistors. If you put a resistor here, another resistor here, another resistor here, like this, you give a resistor. Now I can pump the current here based on whether I put here a switch. I put a transistor to make the switch here a switch. By turning on this power, this will conduct a current, this will conduct a current, this will conduct a current. So this acts as summing of both of them, all of them will come here. So this is done digitally. It creates analog signal, compares with your analog input signal, and finds out correct or wrong. So this is successive approximation technique. This is what is the cheapest method available. They are they are very high speed also. Very high speed, you can make successive approximation 7 bits. Like videos, high speed videos use 7 bits, 8 bits, 10 bits. But when you go for accurate one, you get nowadays very easily up to 12 bit very easily. Most of the low cost controller have 12 bit successive approximation. What is 12 bit? We learned bit today. So let me tell you at least, because you have to understand what is 12 bit. I told you the word 12 bit. 12 bit is the, let's say, the resolution. Let's come back to accuracy and all. I will also explain how it is. So we're talking about successive approximation first, okay? Not about other types. Here, 12 bit means, like I told you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now maximum will be here, F, F, F. That's a 12 bit. So we know these two, up to here is 256. This is 16, this is 256. This is 256 multiplied by 16. So 12 bit total maximum number can be represented as 0 to 4095. Very easy. If you put a tabulation, you will find out 0, the 8 bit is 256, then 512, 1024, and then 2048, 4096. So this is how the 12 bit you get resolution of 0 to, suppose I have 12 bit 0 to 3 volt input. 3 volt input. That means 0 volt will give me 0 value and 3 volt will give me 4095. And these are all theoretical values I'm telling you. So you will have so much steps you can have fine steps. So single successive operation looks nice. How fast I can get the data? Because this has to do all this correction. It won't be instantaneous. It takes time for him also to do it. Actually, if you see, there is a controller in this, or logic system inside this every analog to digital converters, what we are talking now. There is some logic inside doing this, actually. So it's not without electronics. There is a digital electronics, everything inside. So now we see this, how fast it can go. You can get 10 kilohertz, you can give 100 kilohertz, and you can get even megahertz nowadays. In megahertz speed, that means 100 kilohertz means 100,000 samples in a second you can measure and give in digital form. That's quite big. It looks practically you will not use that much in most of the real-time applications. Real-time applications normally if you sample also so many times, you will average it to few samples per second in the real-time application. But certain events require you to measure the voltage very accurately for a long time. For example, energy measurement. If you want to go for energy measurement, 50 hertz we are talking. So you have to measure very accurately digital. So when you really go for accurate digital 3-phase meters, they measure quite fast. But again, coming to the line, 12 bit is enough. No. Now we come back to the second important part. Speed is okay. This speed is quite high. Successive approximation means speed is high. So speed is high, there's no problem. But the resolution is 12 bit, but actually repeatability will be there. Every time you make the same thing, repeatability, how much reliable you will be there. If you ask me a frank opinion, probably I'll only trust 10 bits of it. Even though 12 bits, I will not trust more than 10 bits of it, which means I will only maximum use for 1024. Even though it gives 4096, I will take thousands of samples, average it, and take only up to 1024 steps only. They'll give me reasonably okay in most of the analog digital converters available with a successive approximation. But for video processing, you don't require even so much. You can have 10 bit, 8 bit, very quick processing, because sometimes color also and hue, everything you adjust there, so you don't require so fast. So successive approximation in short form is low cost. You can get high speed, they are not the best ones to be used for accurate measurement of especially slow moving sensors, slow moving values like temperature. They're very difficult. You better use a different type of sensors. Weighing machine. They normally, I will not use a weighing machine as a free approximation. So we'll come back to the second method is that we'll come back to this. Second is called dual slope. Dual slope is one of the best ones. One of the best ones. So you have a reference voltage. This is a voltage, incoming voltage. So you start same op amp, what we talked about. Same op amp, minus plus. Same what I told exactly. Okay. Here is your analog signal, and here is your computer sense. So dual slope, what it will do is it will go on increasing the value voltage here. Go on increasing the value. Till it comes okay. This how this has to charge a capacitor. By this, how the voltage here is given charging a capacitor there. So there is one capacitor used. You actually put it simple way, I'm telling you. Just here a signal give high, and you'll go on charging the capacitor, voltage will increase. This is capacitor voltage will increase. Once it is increased, it crosses the line, you know the time taken. This will give you indication how much time it takes to reach this one, charge it. Suppose if it is here, the signal is here, analog signal is here, it will take less time to charge it. This is the time. Here, this is the time. Now, this is one slope, single slope. Actually, what they do is again, they discharge it to become zero. By connecting this to ground, this particular point, connect to ground, you measure how much time from that particular point it discharges. So this again a time. This is a discharge time. This is a charge time. If you take an average of them, then you'll get accurate enough. There is one problem though. We use a small capacitor. The capacitors don't have this maintain the same accuracy for a very long time. They lose in period of several years. They lose a little bit of accuracy. You'll have problems. People recalibrate for that. So, but dual slope is very good. Used in multimeters, some of the multimeters, not all of them. They are cheap. So they are cheap. They are slow. They are not fast. They are slow. So if you go in dual slope, for example, it will take you something like 5 samples a second, 10 samples a second. Just I'm telling examples, okay? But you have high speed also. You won't get kilohertz or megahertz in dual slope because it takes time to charge the capacitor and measure the time taken to discharge. Because time is a very good you can measure with any digital system. So you convert this whatever the voltage required to compare with the incoming signal. So you use a time to charge and the time you discharge. So from that you find out. So dual slope, normally single slope also I've used for temperature sensors. In vending machines, I've used water temperature sensors. They're quite accurate because a dual slope can be used with a comparator. This is only a comparator and a capacitor and resistance charging. And of course, discharging, you require a transistor. You can use a normal transistor to discharge. So you can make it yourself with just a comparator, a dual slope. And only by timing, you have to measure through microcontroller. So if you have a microcontroller without any analog interface also, you can make one with a discrete comparators. There are so many comparators, or LM393. There are so many types are there. You can get any one of the small one, put a good resistor, good capacitor, and then put the discharging circuit, the transistor. Then you can make a a analog to digital converter by yourself. Quick to make this dual slope. But again, as I told you, accuracy wise is better than successive approximation. Accuracy better than successive approximation, but not still very accurate. So how many bits you will have, depending on your timer and the capacitor accuracy. Normally, you also get the same way 12 bit, 16 bit, you get, or you get even 24 bit readily available devices with dual slope. But I won't go for so accurate with dual slope. More than 24 anyway, I will not go because there are more accurate required. And they are also not used in, for example, accurate weighing balance. They will not use. We covered very fast two types, successive approximation and dual slope. Third one is that I think this is called sigma delta. Sigma delta is sum of errors. So here again use the same op-amp comparator circuit. Actually, this is the, let's say, the whatever the analog signal input. Now, first you will again have a resistor there, and then same type, whatever it is, internal, whatever it is. You give a signal and goes to cross above. So you must have a higher voltage. You give the voltage above this analog signal. You know automatically. The moment you see it, you pull it low. Again, it goes low. Moment it goes low, turn it around. Again, pull it low. Again, pull it low. So now you see this is the error coming, the sum of error. The time taken for this, the sum, to go above the analog signal, input analog signal, or go below the analog signal. This you go on summing. How many comes? This is most accurate. But the problem is this is very slow. Normally sigma delta, yeah, you go up to kilohertz also. Some of the time you use sigma delta up to kilohertz. And that means they have a very high speed digital electronics inside there. So they are not cheap, but they're good. They're used for sigma delta. Even kilohertz speed you can get, but normal sigma delta is in the range of few hertz only you'll be using. Kilohertz also available. They're expensive, thoda. Really, they're the most expensive. They are accurate compared to all the three types. So, but sigma delta, if you go, you get more than 24 bits of accuracy, and they're used for weighing balances. For example, you prefer a sigma delta very accurate. It's slow process. Weighing will not be so fast. Fast, you require anything, you go to successive approximation. Very, very fast you can get at low cost. And I use, frankly speaking, seldom sigma delta. And if you don't have analog converter in the controller, then I make a dual slope or use a single slope. Otherwise, preferably comfortable with successive approximation, because most of the time you don't require that much accurate. Because no use of measuring a temperature of 23.4 and all. It's idiotic, because you don't have temperature sensor that gives so much repeatability accuracy of 0.01. Very, very difficult. And temperature itself cannot vary so much. Physically, to increase, it takes several seconds actually to go. Even if you use a temperature which are used in your blow molding machine, which makes your PET bottles, water bottles, what you have with a lot of curves and water bottles. Even that, if you see it, they use IR heater. Even there, the response is not so much faster. Where we are talking in, actually, again, you can go up to kilohertz there. So that response can be managed with even a successive approximation. It's very important for you to choose which type of analog to digital converters you require, depending on it. This is quite important. Now we come back to digital to analog. Okay. This is a interesting stuff. I want to convert back digital to analog. Now, digital to analog, basically, they are available as a ladder logic. They use again the ladder logic to produce. Ladder logic is a resistors divider. So they use that ladder principle to generate it. But normally 10 bit, 12 bit is also difficult. You cannot get 12 bit. 10 bit is common, you will get, or 8 bit you will get. 12 bit is available, more than that difficult to get actually. But when you want to really go for high speed analog conversion, digital to analog conversion, one of the methods are used with a less bit accuracy you want to have is that I told you about pulse width modulation. We talked about phase angle, we talked, you remember, and the like, and pulse width modulation I told you. If you don't understand, I will explain you the pulse. We use the pulse width modulation, for example, in SMPS design. So we learned that what is pulse width modulation. So we can actually, this is my microcontroller. I can output a signal pulse train with the same frequency, for example, like this one, or it will become like this. So when I give, this is a pulse width. I told you the frequency is same, the width I'm changing. The width I change, actually I can have a very small resistor and capacitor. This will give me analog voltage straight away. And if you require, I put a buffer. If you want really to have a buffer, then I will put a buffer here in op amp, small op amp, to give a higher current output. So this will give me exact what I want, which a digital to analog voltage is sufficient for most of your purposes. No need to go and buy a digital to analog converter. The PWM is quite good, accurate, depending on how many bits you have. So how many variations you can have. These variations can be depending on your timers inside. If you have 32-bit variation, you can have really huge variation of the analog voltages here. So I would suggest you, whenever you want to use a digital to analog, convert any signal, consider using also a PWM directly from a serial port. They don't require any DA. So you can have more accurate than even 10 bits, easily implemented with just a resistor capacitor. You have to calculate the resistor capacitor. That is easy. Later on you can calculate. I explained it before, but you can calculate very simple how much it will come out. And just use a buffer. This is a buffer. Why? Means this cannot give that much current. So to increase the current, I'm using a buffer. Connect to plus and minus to feedback directly. So gain will be 1. So this also we learned in the analog part. So this will be the one of the how you interface with analog and the digital world. I think 40. I think I wait for some questions from you. Then we'll talk about what how much you understood, how we are ready for the next part of it that we have to talk. So please, you can ask, close it so you can ask any question.
If it is a 24-bit, then you will be using a 4F.
I didn't understand. I didn't understand. Once again, come back.
If you are using a 24-bit analog to digital converter, then you will be using a 4F. That is
No.
1F.
Yes. No. Yes. You see, not 4F. 24-bit you're talking, correct?
Yes.
24-bit क्या होगा इसे को 4 every 4 bit is F. Okay. 1 2 this is 4 4 8 12. Okay. 3 is 12. then
16.
again 3 aayega. Okay,
Oh,
this much you will get.
okay.
So another 8 will become 32. So that is another 8 will become 32. So this is 24. This is 8, this is 16. 16 plus 8 is 24 total. And up to here is 32.
Okay. Okay.
This is something like I told you, the bits and things have to be thought for a while by each one of you, because that is something going to be really a drawback if you don't understand that bits pattern. Very easy, because you'll be in a, it's easy to understand. I'll again explain you. Bit is very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 are joined as a nibble. Another 4, another nibble, another 4, another nibble. You can go like this. Any number. Now, if you talk, this is 32 bits. Now, interesting is you can addition and you can do subtraction also with this numbers. This is that's how it's done actually. Now, this is 4-bit, 8-bit, 12-bit. Now, this 4-bit can be represented hexadecimal. That means can be represented from 0 to F. So now 0 to 9, afterwards A is actually inside 10 for you understanding. B, C, D, E, and F. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just mug up this, your mind may then become clear for you. So 0 to F, this also 0 to F, this also 0 to F, 0 to F. So if I write FF, so this is 4F is equal to, actually total will become 65,536. This is what normally in small 8-bit processors, this is called the integer number, unsigned integer. We'll come back to that afterwards, all signed integer, unsigned integer. So you have to understand this. So remember this only. 4, 4 we dividing, easy to remember number. So by instead of 65,536, I can see FF. Only 4 letter representation, I represent a bigger number. It goes still a higher number, very huge figure, very huge figure. So that is how when you represent time, anything, such a huge number can be represented by the hexadecimal. Because each digit can have 15. Right now, 65,500 decimal I have written. This can be only 10, whereas each one can be 16. So 16 to the power, think. Now, if you ask me a question, why we don't use 24? Because we cannot use it, because either 2, 4, 8 only we design anything. Divide by half, divide by half, divide by half. So it goes, you cannot make it as a 3 and odd, even if how it works really. So that's how we use 4 bits and 4 bits. 8 bits are required. Why we, instead of 7, 8 we are using? Because 8 will represent 256 possibilities, which is actually ASCII requires only 127, 128. But we have graphics we included, so 256 we are using. That's how 8-bit we are using. Otherwise, we call as a byte, 8 of the bits is called byte. So 1 byte, 2 bytes equal to 16 bits. Now 3 bytes equal to 24 bits. 3 bytes. 3 bytes will come like this: 04, 23, 56. Now these 2 bytes, and 2 bytes. So 2 to 4, 6 bytes comes automatic. This with this actually FF you can have, This is 8 bits, 12 bit here, 16 bit here. Then you have up to 32 bits. So I think it's easy. I think you work out. Any other questions on you have on AD conversion, logic, or anything?
So in digital to analog conversion, you are
Yes.
giving a PWM as an exit of microcontroller or a for exit of the microcontroller, isn't it, sir?
Yes. See, actually, this is a microcontroller. You can put an output. You can put a timer output, a PWM output. Okay. It's a digital output. Okay. And there are methods we'll learn how to make this PWM output from microcontroller. So one pin you will use to output. This is a digital actually output, but you can convert into analog by just a resistor and a capacitor by yourself. So you make actually a digital to analog converter by yourself. But there are microcontrollers available already with DTA output. Normally 10 bits and some, very rarely, some of them, what we use, they have 12 bits also. But if more than 12 bits required, you cannot use them because people don't make, there are devices available, especially you can buy for 16 bit and even higher. But normally professionals don't prefer. They prefer to use a PWM you can change very easily. And it's cheaper actually. So depending on your application, you have to select DA you want or PWM. One advantage is PWM is there. Now we come back to another one. Interesting question you asked. So I think it'll take 5 minutes for that. Similar, the reciprocal applies, okay, for analog to digital also, okay. I forgot to tell you. There's analog to digital, I told you 3 types. There's one more type is there, very simple. This is V2F converter. I used it. It's called voltage to frequency converter. You can have, actually this is a very interesting topic because all of your microcontroller oscillators, they are also voltage to frequency converters only. They are accurate. You buy a controller, this is built-in 24 megahertz RC oscillator. They call RC oscillator. Let's say 24 megahertz. There are 12 megahertz, 16 megahertz. So how they make it? They make it with only voltage controlled oscillator. They call voltage controlled oscillator. They are nothing but actually voltage to frequency. In simple sentence to explain to you, they are voltage to frequency. So when you increase the voltage, for example, these are all you can do it with even a small timer circuit of 555, which is common, everybody knows. You can use them also to do it. And there are other more accurate available. From a voltage, suppose very simple, there's a block diagram. Here, the voltage is coming like this, increasing like this. Then the frequency will be like this. So frequency will go on increasing here. So as the voltage increases here, based on time, and again I increase the frequency output. This I can use a microcontroller to read the frequency. Microcontroller is very good only in timing. It can read the timings automatically between the pulses. That is the frequency measurement. When you make the frequency measurement, you can do it digitally. This is actually, again, you can make yourself. But this is done in, actually the voltage analog to digital, when you convert this way, they are not very, you don't get that much high resolution what we are talking, because we normally require high resolution analog to digital. This is good for even 8 bits. You can make it good enough. You can make it, even I can make it for 16 bits, but I will think 10 times to make it 16 bits because I need here capacitors and resistors which must be accurate. So I don't trust the capacitors to be accurate in after a certain time. They use the value. So, but normal timers, digital switching circuits of timers, they'll be more accurate. They also use crystal. Every crystal oscillator or any oscillator, as we call as parts per million, ppm accuracy, temperature variation. So you have 10 ppm, 20 ppm is a million, 20 variation. The million you convert, so much will have each temperature. So that much it will give error. So they are also, as we will come back to that also. So this is one of the ways of analog to digital. Continue asking other questions. So we have another 5 minutes. 10 minutes rather. And I want to know whether, see, there are 2, 3 ways we can work now. Um, the one is you must know basics of microcontroller, how it works. Uh, Another things you have to know about different type of protocols before start writing programming. I'll just tell you. You require to know about sensors, different sensors. Uh, Before knowing sensors, you must know about protocols, the small communication protocols, how they work. Today, I try to explain you what is UART. So we have to explain those protocols a little bit. We have to know. Then you must know basic functioning of microcontroller, inside structure, how it works. Uh, this is important. Even if you're not going to use microcontroller directly yourself, it is important for you to understand how inside this functions. Whenever you want to use a module or something, also what are the limitations, what it looks for. So then you have to learn programming. Without that, we can't do anything. So you have to learn what you call simple C. I don't want anything more complicated. Just C programming. We will also learn C programming from basic, but those time you have to spend your extra time outside. Otherwise, we may have to skip some classes if you're not ready, because useless for us to continue if we don't spend time. So, because you'll not learn ultimately. I mean, like I told you, there are so many classes on YouTube and everywhere else about electronics embedded, and there are so many people are teaching, but still I don't find many people coming out. That's one of the reasons why we started this exercise. So let us hope at least few of you come out with basic understanding and start doing it to go for the next turn of people to understand. It's important for you to spend time when we start about C programming and certain things which we'll learn tricks how to go. Once you learn one of that language, probably everything will be looks easier for you to work on. So don't get confused. Where Java, everything will look simple for you. Once you know one simple language, how the structure, how it works, then all you have to learn is only to where to look for, where to search. Then you will not be doing cut and paste blindly. Then we have to come to the once protocol comes, then we lot of work to be done on communication protocols, sensor interface protocols. Then we have to learn about in communication. We'll learn a lot about starting from Ethernet communication, wireless communication. Uh, I think this can go inside when you learn the C programming. Both can go side by side. Otherwise, you'll be damn tired only programming given. I think you'll lose the interest. So we'll mix them together. So one day you learn some protocol and you'll learn some programming. So it becomes, this is what I schedule. So tomorrow probably we'll learn about basics of microcontroller, how it works, and some small protocol probably will do. So if you those who know already microcontroller, refresh them because it'll be basic only, but you have to understand exactly what operations you can do with the microcontroller. That question is a PWM, where there's so many things you can do with the controller, like timer and counter can do. So what all state machines you can generate, how to work. So we'll see all of them. I think we'll start tomorrow. Probably it will take 1 or 2 classes, I think, according to me. But then once we go through this, then be faster. Uh, then I think we'll give solution. I'll try to think next week a method how to. Probably after 2 weeks, you need some way to work hands on. So let me try to see it in next week. Questions? Last 1 or 2 questions. There's one chat box is there, I think.
Participants, you can ask questions now.
Join late. Can you please what was discussed in first hour? I'm sorry because we discussed on digital numbering system, digital electronics, and latches. Uh, we didn't learn much more, but we learned what is latches and buffer, or what is it in basic. We learned about afterwards signal conditioning, a few of them. So I think I will try to see this week. I will put next week, coming next week, I'll put them in YouTube so you can see them there. Probably both. First three are there. The last one I didn't put it, so I will do that. Fine. I think if no questions are there, we call it off a day today, and we'll see next time. Next week will tomorrow will be interesting. Or is it okay weather-wise? Okay, or tomorrow you can have it, or any problems you guys are facing?
Tomorrow is okay, sir.
Okay, no problem. Chalo, let's see tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, bye. Thank you.